was a bit of a fanboy, and I loved StarCraft 1 purely for the map editor. I made my own campaign where I was me and my brother and my family with the stars, and that you had multiple routes to go. So if you failed one mission, you're not out. You just go to a harder second mission and stuff like that. So the escort missions never really, like, you never lost. If you lost the guy who was trying to escort, he would then not be in the next battle with the tech that he would have given you, and you're just harder. So I did that. Again, that comes back to my programming roots, and so I really liked StarCraft for that reason. But I hated the 12 cap limit on selection. I thought that was awful. I thought that really bad programming, but obviously it was a choice. And yeah, it was one of these things that was really a passing. I loved the map editor. I think that's the only thing that kept me with. I never completed the campaign, like fully, all three of either StarCraft or Brood War. But I did play the map editor so much. I loved it. That's what made the game for me. The other thing, I guess, with StarCraft 2 was streaming. It actually comes back to the original point of this interview. I started watching Day 9. It was a friend of mine who messaged me one day, "This is hilarious, you've got to watch this." And I was like, I don't really play StarCraft 2. I own it. But he was like, "You've got to watch it, it's so funny." So I watched it, I found it funny, and it was Day 9's random video about StarCraft. I don't know anything about StarCraft 2, really. I knew about it, but I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, this guy just made me interested, not in the game, but in him, about a topic I didn't care about. And that made me realize that, this guy is obviously really cool. And two, you don't necessarily need to know the topic of something if you've got a good enough presenter. And that's one thing that made me think, really, okay, there's something in this. And I started watching him religiously. I went through like 100 dailies in a matter of a month, and they're like an hour and a half dailies. And that sucks up all your time. It was just like watching them took up so much time. And I watched and watched and watched. And then I started watching other people like Husky, and which I don't like, by the way. And it's really surprising because his style is very similar to mine, but I don't like his style. Great person. I'm not dissing him as a person. Loads of people love him. He's one of the most popular casters in the world. But I couldn't watch him. I actually unsubbed from him eventually because I just got fed up with it. But I do watch Lag TV, which is another two casters from StarCraft, and I still don't play StarCraft. I've got it installed, and I play the arcade on StarCraft a lot, and I know how to play StarCraft because I've watched enough streaming of it, but I don't actually play bloody StarCraft. What's up with that?
Maybe you don't want to be a machine. As you see the players actually playing it, they're there. You just have to micro. But apart from actually, the only part of them that's human is the human look. It looks like they're just kind of like AI, super AI, playing against each other there.
Yeah, it's. Do you know what? I was watching the Texas Red Bull Battlefield from StarCraft 2, and that was last year. And I realized the problem with esports, and that's the players. The players themselves don't treat themselves like they are celebrities in their world. Remember, football stars are only football stars because people who watch football appreciate them as stars. If any of the big footballers walked past me, I would have a clue who they were, and they would not be a star to me. But if any of the big StarCraft 2 players walked past me, I'd be like, "Oh my freaking god, that's so-and-so." And I would recognize them, and I would think that they're someone that I would want to talk to. So the star mentality is only about the fact that they are doing something that you appreciate, that you want to watch, and that's why they're a star, and nothing other than that. People who watch my stream obviously would love to meet me and have a beer with me and just hang out with me, only because they watch my show and they're entertained by it, and not because of any other reason. So the players who win, like Stefano and who was the guy who got second, MC, stood there on stage, they got their awards like sheepdog. They're just looking down, twiddling their feet, like they've just been given a shield. They're second, third, second, and first. Like the first battle I come out, and that was Bomber. And Bomber comes out, and he's like, "Yeah, I got first!" And then he pretty much grabbed the arms of Stefano and MC and shoved them in the air and said, "Come on!" And he ran up to the clouds and high-fiving them all. And I was expecting him to crowd jump, but he's a big lad. I expected him to jump on the crowd. I was like, "Whoa!" And then the crowd went nuts. But they only went nuts after he showed that there was a reason to go nuts. The crowd were acting like the stars. Stefano and I were acting like sheepishly that they're embarrassed to be on stage. So the crowd were acting embarrassed to be stood there looking at these guys that are on thing. And then Bomber came out and showed them how they should act. and the crowd loved it. He loved it. Then all of a sudden it became a proper sport, like an actual, if you're watching any other television sport. And I felt that was a problem with esports. The players themselves don't treat themselves like they're playing a sport, so why should the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking on that, have you paid any attention to the professional Dota 2 teams? Have you heard of them?
Dota 2 is this thing I'm trying to get into at the moment. I've been playing a bit of it. The trouble is you can't resign. So you play Dota 2, and if things go horribly pear-shaped mid-game, but they can't finish it because you're slightly too powerful, but you can't really come back, you have to wait for another half an hour for the game to finish. It's really hard. I mean, that's cool and all. It prevents people from resigning early, but you get teammates who just jump into the forest and wait. And then you will definitely lose no matter how well you play. And, I'm a busy guy. I've got lots of things to do. I can't be doing that. But I have been watching Fnatic MSI move from HON to Dota, and I've been watching their progress. Obviously, they're getting their ass whooped at the moment. Yeah. But I have been looking at the scene, and I do want to cover it more when I get a bit more time.
Have you heard of Navi and Dindy?
Didn't Navi challenge HON to go into there and beat them up? And say, HON's easy mode. We'll come from Dota 2 to HON and kick your heads in.
Well,
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, well, as we all have heard, at least in any gaming professionalism, you always hear about the pro players from other games. But Daniel Ushkun, also known as Dindy, is the poster boy for Dota 2 at the moment.
Okay.
But as you were talking about with StarCraft 2, this guy has a personality that just outshines. It doesn't even matter if he wins or loses. People have always done multiple interviews with him. I've done an interview with him myself, and he's like, I play the game because I love it. I don't care about winning or losing. I play for the sole fact of playing. And I think that's what a lot of gamers and streamers themselves, that's what they should be focused on. It's not about fame or winning or anything else. It's about you love the game and you get to actually do what you love. Just getting paid from it's a bonus.
There are several players that I'm not going to drop too many names, but there are several players that have gone from game to game. And that's a good thing for esports because it's proven that it's the personality in the player, not the game. And the skills do transfer. So playing games professionally, certain genres professionally, like if you played HON and Dota and Dota 2 or even League of Legends, the skills do transfer. They're not immediately. You've still got to practice the new mechanics and the way the game exactly works to get professional at it. But the skills do transfer. If you're godly at Dota 2, you're going to be good at HON. If you're godly at League of Legends, you're going to be good at HON. If you're great at HON, you're going to be good at Dota 2. The skills do transfer. You're not going to be the best immediately. You can practice. But if you do transfer between games, you should get a fan base that follows you, not necessarily your team, like Fnatic MSI. The big fan base that they had for HON would transfer over to Dota 2. They would want to watch their favorite players that they've watched for ages try and compete. Unfortunately, they're taking a bit too long to get good, so people are starting to lose interest. But that's it's the same with anything. There's football teams in England, soccer, who move up from Division 1 to the Premiership and become sucky. They were great in Division 1. They're kicking everyone's asses, but then they go against the real professionals and start losing every game. And that can take a hit for the team's morale, and people jump ship. So
yeah. And as of now, we know that you're moving and everything, but what is your preferred, or if you don't have it yet, your dream gaming rig setup?
Well, you know what? I'm actually researching. I'm spending about £1,000 for a mediocre setup. And I say mediocre, it's going to be fantastic, but it's not going to be my final. I'm going to upgrade every year from that point onwards because of my new job. But anyway, my dream at the moment is to get the i7s unlocked. What are they called? The
Sandy Bridge?
No, not the Ivy Bridge. 3370? Random numbers. No, the really top of the range i7 processor. I'm going to get that with some 16 to 32 gigs of RAM, probably 32. I'm going to get some form of mega cooling. Probably 2 graphics cards, but probably only 1 for now, purely because I need to save a little bit of money. Have all my hard drives SSD, burn them with my graphic editing, and just throw them away and buy another one, once they're dead. Dream setup where everything just freaking works at when you need them to work. I want to be able to stream in 60 frames per second, but also have a 30 frames per second stream for people who cannot download the bitrate needed for 30 seconds. Basically, I want stability, and I want the options for the viewers. For me, an important rig is to be able to play the game that you're designing your casting around, to be able to play it at 60 frames, 30 frames, and this is at 720p because no one watches at 10. You know, I see no one, like 0.01% of the population can watch at that sort of resolution, or even have the monitor to support that resolution.
Yeah.
So 720p at 60 frames, at 30 frames, and then all the denominations down at 30 frames, so that anyone can enjoy the show, no matter what their internet connection is, without them having to go, oh, the stream's laggy, I can't handle it, because you've only got one option. And that's one thing I really like, being diverse. And yeah, so I'm really researching that at the moment, actually. So you caught me at a time where I don't really know what my dream setup would be, but I am researching my current allowed setup and what my future setup will be. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Well, just remember with SSDs, keep the hard drive at 50% full or less, and you're gonna have a very good longevity of the drive. But if you fill it up over 50%, it'll crash within like a couple months to a year.
That's it. Yeah, the SSDs need to have a lot of space to not have to rewrite the drives, the sectors a lot. Yeah, I've been reading up on that. But yeah, my main issue actually at the moment, if we'll move on to a question that I'm going to make up myself now, is that I actually don't ever stream myself, right? It's going to sound really weird. I'm a professional streamer that doesn't stream, right? You'll get into this later, but I'll set that out right now. If anyone checks out my channel, that is my channel. I own it and I star upon it, but I've never streamed to it, or very incredibly rarely streamed to it. We'll get into that later, but next question, sir.
Okay, as far as the single, dual, or tri monitor, what do you prefer?
Definitely at least dual. Okay, tri monitors are good for working on graphics programs, but I don't think they're any good for gaming. For the basis that, dual gaming depends. This is hard. If you like gaming with all the monitors showing the game and not just information about the game, then you need a tri setup. Dual setup's useless because the middle of the screen is where all the focus of the game is, and you've got now a break between monitors where it is. So never try to do like a dual monitor setup. I tried this once with two monitors, because you'll get where you need to see cut off with the two monitors, and it will piss you off, right? Basically, if you've got 3 monitors, the main focus will be in the middle. But I prefer playing on one monitor and having information on the either sides, whether it's my stream information, whether it's just documentation, or if it's a web page, my Hotmail, my Twitter, or something like that on other pages. But I actually prefer focusing on one thing. So yeah.
Okay. And we're going to wrap up the gaming peripherals here in just a few seconds. We just have a few more questions about them, mainly because a lot of the gaming community and streamers are being bought into like a lot of what I would like to call Hollywood hype. You know, you always try to give out what you think is the best, but it's not necessarily the best equipment. So as far as peripherals go with your keyboard and mouse or gaming headset, do you always buy into the latest trends, or do you actually keep things simple?
I have found a lot of problems with some things, and I like buying brands that I like. And believe it or not, I'll recommend Microsoft peripherals for most things. The mice they make are super good, and remember, this is not just for gaming. I'm a caster, so I'm not a professional gamer. So although I do like to play games at high quality,
yes.
It's a case of I need to do things like graphical editing, web designers, that sort of stuff. So the iPoint mouse have an inbuilt zoom. You press one button, it zooms up on your screen, and you can look into certain areas to make things are aligned correctly and check things out, make sure everything's okay. If you're video editing, make sure that there's no tearing and stuff like that. So a good quality piece of equipment is fantastic. The mouse mat is actually really important. You want to get some really expensive stainless steel sort of mouse mat. It will last you forever. And not only that, it will give you such a more accurate movement of the mouse. So that's basically what you want to be doing. When it comes to the keyboard, something that's the right level for your wrist. I think that the look of it and the sort of functionality of it really depends on the person. And I do go for the full-size ones. I don't like the separate numpads and that sort of stuff, or the compact ones. I do like the full-size ones. And I do like them having low keys. A lot of people don't like that. I don't look down when I type. In fact, my keyboard I cannot see. It's underneath my desk. I cannot ever see it. It's a fixed desk. So I need to be a touch type. So I like it low, so I don't have to hold my wrist. So if you've got your wrist like this all day, you'll get RSI. You'll get some massive issues. So guys, recommendation out there, make sure you're comfortable, because if you're not, you'll get medical issues and then you'll have to stop. And that's no good for anybody. So make it sure it's comfortable. The things like the Razer lighted keyboards, I will actually recommend against. Sorry, Razer, if you're looking for a deal there, because they in bright light they disappear. You can't see what's what. So if you need to look down at your keyboard, you're screwed. I'm okay with that because I don't look down. But if you do need to look down, you cannot tell.